Hi, I'm Nancy Guberti. A total wellness empowerment podcast episode today is really going to be so beneficial for you to listen to. I'm all about the mind, body, and spirit. And today we're going to talk about so many different levels of our thoughts and how that not only affects our lives, but also our fur babies. And that could be any type of fur baby involved. So, let me tell you something about the special guest, Rachel Augusta. She was featured on the New York Times, CNN, BBC. She was on the cover of People magazine. I'm dealing with a heavy hitter here. She works with animals all over the world who are sick, injured, have terminal illness, or suffer from age-related issues or trauma due to any previous abuse. She's a certified Advanced Proficiency Healing Touch for Animals practitioner. She has the highest level in that field. She has her own practice. She works in hospitals, vet clinics, rehab facilities, and shelters. Her business was featured in a best-selling Hay House published book called Women Rocking Business. She has been interviewed by international animal protection organizations, and In Defense of Animals has been interviewed on numerous podcasts, radio shows. She's a keynote speaker at festivals, events, colleges, workshops, spreading her message about the importance of preventative health care. And I am so excited to have you, Rachel.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, Nancy. I'm really, really happy to be here with you.
So I met Rachel through my son, Mark. She's been on his podcast, and he was like, Mom, you have to meet her, have her, and everything else. And I've watched a lot of your posts on Facebook and social media. So I want to dive right into how the work you do and how it could benefit humanity and animals all in one.
Thank you. Thank you. Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. And I love your son as mentioned, your whole family. It's just awesome. Yeah.
Thank you. So let's talk about, we see a lot of these like therapy animals these days. We see a lot of animals that have been abused. And, you know, if you have a pet at home, or even if you don't have a pet and you go visit somebody's house, you know, lots of times animals can feel your emotion. I want to unpack so many different things with you, but one of your talks is about like taking a chill pill and your emotions and making your fur babies sick.
Mhm.
Can you talk a little bit about the studies and the work that you do with the negative emotions, how it gets the
Yeah.
best of us?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So, we've known for a long time that animals can smell fear, right? Dogs can smell your fear, animals can smell fear. But the truth is that all of your emotions have a smell. And all animals can smell all of your emotions. And, you know, honestly, it's like if animals can smell cancer and diabetes on people, which we know that they can, of course they're going to be able to smell when you're anxious or depressed or happy or feeling joy. They can smell all of that on you. And a lot of people wonder why, like, why are animals able to do this and maybe humans can't? um Animals have far more neuron receptors associated with smell in their brain. A human has 10 million neuron receptors associated with smell, which sounds like a lot, but a cat has 80 million and a dog has 400 million neuron receptors associated with smell. And so they're just able to smell. They're able to just smell things. And so, a lot of times when people are having a bad day, let's say I hate my job and I've had a bad day and I come from home from work and I'm miserable. A human would know based on my behavior. And an animal, of course, would be able to pick up on your behavior, but they'd also be able to smell it on you. So with a human, you could ask me, how are you today? And I could actually have had a horrible day and told you, oh, I'm great. I'm really good. And you'd be like, that's awesome. That's so wonderful to hear. But it's not true. And that would be fine for the human, but an animal would know That's actually not true. They can smell everything on you. But it doesn't just end there. Back a few years ago, a group of scientists from the Department of Biology in Naples, Italy, they were able to prove that not only do animals smell our emotions, but they feel them with us. And so, what does that mean? Well, if I am unhappy, if I'm anxious, if I'm depressed, my body is creating cortisol. A buildup of cortisol. I mean, we know that cortisol is bad for the body. A lot of cortisol is bad for the body. It causes inflammation, and a lot of cortisol leads to tumors, and tumors can lead to cancer. And so, while this is happening, this disease is happening in my body, my beloved animal companion is experiencing the same cortisol release with me. So while I'm having cortisol releases, they're having cortisol releases, and which also in their body leads to inflammation, tumors, and cancer.
Oh my God, now that is so intense. So it's almost like you have to get your mental health in order, not only for yourself,
Yes.
but your animal, your baby.
Right, your fur baby, because they're living it with you. And because they can smell it on you. And so, and in this research, they were able to prove that when an animal gets sick, so let's say your beloved animal companion ends up with stage 3 cancer, our response then is to freak out, right? Oh no, you're going to die. I can't live without you. And our stress hormones start to be triggered, and cortisol starts rushing through our body, and it starts to rush through their body again, and the tumor will grow.
Oh my God, it's like you're manifesting.
Yeah, the cancer will grow, the cancer gets worse. And so, it's horrible, but a lot of my clients ask me, like, my dog has stage 4 cancer, what can I do? And it's like, don't freak out. It's a horror. I mean, that's so hard to say to somebody, right? Because how could you not freak out? But the best thing you can do for someone who, an animal who is sick, is to let yourself have the initial freak out, because you're going to. It's impossible to say that you wouldn't. And then get yourself into a place of, we're in it to win it, or I'm going to make peace with this, and just give them the best quality of life possible until they're no longer here.
And I absolutely love that, because you really have to do that with humans as well.
Right.
So if you have a loved one that has a terrible disease, and I've dealt with many people who came to me with stage 4 cancer, and once they started to feel better, they actually forgot that they had their illness, and they
Mm,
last for so much longer than conventional med
mhm.
treatments would have, because if you're going for that every day for this certain treatment, you think it's in the forefront of your mind. So the same thing with the animal, like, deal with it at first, yes, go cry maybe outside of the house, and then come back and say, listen, I have only perhaps a few more time with this fur baby, right? So let me make it loving and caring, because they see everything, they feel everything.
Everything. Yeah, make it happy. Make it fun. A lot of times what people do then is, when their animal's really sick and dying, is they shut everything down, like no more fun, no more play, no more like they wrap them in bubble wrap, which is understandable. I get it. But this is exactly when you should be going to dog park with the frisbee and letting them play. Because something else can happen, and so we talk about the negative, like what happens to the body, when you're experiencing negative emotions. But there's something else that happens to the body when you're experiencing joy and relaxation. And so, I have so many animals that come to me with days, literally just a few days left to live. And a lot of times the human is like, I still have to try. My vet told me that this is terminal and they've only got a few days, but I would hate myself if I didn't try something else. And then a lot of people come to me that are like, my goal is not to save them. My goal is for them to die gracefully. And both of those things are beautiful, right? So, but a lot of animals have come to me with a couple of days, maybe a week left to live, and then they go into spontaneous remission. And I mean, this happens a lot with animals. And so, how is that possible? People like to use the word miracle. It's a miracle. It's a miracle. Well, how did this miracle happen? And yeah, and a miracle is a beautiful word, but really what it is what the body can do when you get the brain and the body working together instead of against each other. That is where miracles happen. And so what I mean by that is getting them to work together instead of against each other is when you experience joy or relaxation or one of the positive, happy emotions, your brain releases, well, besides cortisol, it releases endorphins,
Mm-hmm.
serotonin, dopamine.
Right.
That relaxes the muscles. And when the muscles are relaxed, your blood becomes oxygenated. And when you have oxygenated blood, your body absorbs nutrients more efficiently from food, from herbs, whatever it is. Your stomach starts creating digestive enzymes, your hormones regulate, your body detoxes, and then new cell growth happens. That's called the physiological relaxation response. And that's why if you go to the doctor with a broken arm or a broken leg, they're going to ask you what your pain level is because you can't heal if you're in pain. So if you say a 2, they're going to just give you an Advil. If you say a 10, they're going to prescribe you a Percocet. They're trying to trigger that response in your body because that's where we heal.
I love
So
that.
yeah, so if you can trigger that naturally in your animals, whether they're on chemo or not, or whether they're taking medication or not, whether you have a sick animal or a healthy animal, you want to be triggering this response in the body constantly because it creates new cell growth. And we all want new cell growth. That's life, right? Cell growth is life. We all want new cell growth. And so if your dog has been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, get them to the dog. If they love dog park and they love Frisbee, get them there, get those endorphins going, because the endorphins are going to trigger that response in the body that they need for it to heal. If your cat loves clicker toy, this is a time to play with their clicker toy.
I love that. And now, when you made me think of something like when people go on vacation and they can't take their fur babies with them, we actually sneak ours with us because it's too traumatic when we leave her. All of us leave her. She
Mm-hmm.
shuts down. She goes on a hunger strike.
Yeah, and that's stressful.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's horrible.
Yeah.
And it's really bad. So what happens to individuals? What's advice, or what can they do if they can't take their baby with them on a vacation? Is there anything that they can do when they come back? Or
Sorry, my cat wants to take over this interview.
I love that.
She's like, I have the answer.
Keep her there. She's
I
beautiful.
have the answer.
What do you have to say?
So I know for so long I tried to stop her, and now I'm like, well, I
Why?
the animals, why? So yeah. So, and the thing about the stress that's really difficult about stress is that it's not just that when you leave, your dog is stressed, but as you mentioned, then she's going on a hunger strike. And then other health problems can arise. I actually worked with a Delta flight attendant who traveled all the time. And she told me that she'd go on these trips and it was like her German Shepherd had aged by 10 years when she'd get home.
Mm-hmm.
He just looked so sick and so horrible. And she was really worried for his life. And so, because he was in that cortisol state of stress and freak out. And so there's various things you can do, but one thing I love teaching to people is the art of animal communication. And so you really don't need to be an animal communicator to understand how this works. So humans, when we think and when we talk, we create images in our brain. We just do it so quickly, we're not aware that we're doing it. And our animal companions can read these images. So that's telepathy. And, uh, you know, telepathy is not their language, right? It's where we meet in the middle. It's where we come together. It's our middle language for both of us. And so if we can talk our animals through these situations, it really can cure like 95% of separation anxiety. And so what I teach people to do and what we can talk about right now is you talk them through the process. And what you say is something like, I'm going to be leaving on a flight for Texas to go work there. I can't bring you with me. I'm going to be gone starting Monday, the 15th until Friday, the 20th. And I'm going to leave at 9 a.m. and I'm going to be coming home roughly about 8 p.m. And I will think about you while I'm gone. And then you actually think about them. It's like you send them a head bump and they feel it. And that can really help get them through. And sometimes even just marking on a calendar and showing them on the calendar, these are the days I'm going to be gone. And you know, a lot of people do this with their animals when they have animals who have separation anxiety just with them going to work. They start to implement this and they're like, yeah, it totally changed the whole situation.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Now tell me, you mentioned about that you do this with your work. How do you work with people and animals? Like, do you educate people
Mhm.
of what you just said? And is that an online thing? Is it one-on-one? Is it group session? I'm very interested. So I know the listeners are probably as interested.
Yeah, honestly, it's all of the above. You know, I have private clients that I work with that's much more detailed. It involves much more one-on-one coaching. We do a lot of, you know, I do private sessions with the animal to build up their immune system, especially if they're sick or they're going through trauma, but then it involves a lot of coaching. You
Mhm,
know, what else is in the house that might be contributing to the illness?
mhm.
Um, you know, toxic cleaners, scents, fragrances, things that would be disrupting the animal's, you know, immune system. I also have a membership group for women and their fur babies, and this is a place to ask questions. We do group healings. They get a lot of this one-on-one. Well, it's one-on-one attention, but in a group setting.
Right.
And then through social media, and I'm going to be starting my own podcast when I get on it, really explaining this. But yeah, and there's a lot of different ways you can work with me, but it's mostly through the membership site or privately.
I love that because again, you're so knowledgeable, and animals are a big part of one's lives.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to touch upon like therapy dogs you mentioned for cancer and everything. What type of trauma do they go through, the dogs, after say that the individual has passed? And do they go to a next house, onto a next therapy? I was curious about that. And also foster families, like what they should be looking at when they foster animals as they looking for adoption.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, let's talk about therapy animals. Now there's different types of therapy animals. There's emotional support animals and there's therapy animals. There's dogs that and other animals that have gone through extensive training to help if somebody has diabetes, to alert them if they're about ready to go into diabetic seizure. But then there's also the animals that maybe they're not living with anybody sick necessarily, but they go into hospitals to bring love to kids in a cancer ward or to airports. I'm sure you've heard about that. They're now bringing in dogs to airports to help people who have serious anxiety around flying, and and all of that is really beautiful. But I do have a lot of clients that come to me with their animals who are really sick because they've developed autoimmune diseases out of stress that's really been brought on by these jobs. Especially we see that if they're working in a high stress environment where people are dying, you know, maybe a cancer ward at a hospital or a nursing home, it can, you know, what do we know about animals? They love us.
Yeah.
they they love us. They love us so much. And so of course it's going to be hard on them
Mm.
when they go to a hospital, and let's say they're working in the cancer ward of a children's hospital. We talked about smell, you know, how it can be hard for them when we come home after we've had a bad day. Imagine being in a cancer unit with a bunch of children who are dying, whose parents are grief stricken, And these dogs are being brought in to give love, right? But they're absorbing and they can smell everywhere grief.
Wow.
They can smell everyone's fear and grief.
Wow.
That is a lot, right? You have this beautiful dog that's like, I just want to make everybody happy, and all I can smell is fear and grief. And I know this is my job, but this is really hard. So what we do is we do things for these animals to set them up for success.
Yeah.
In the same way you talk an animal through separation anxiety, I have to leave, I can't take you with you. Take you with me. I love you so much, but this is the day I'll come back. We have a similar sort of conversation with the animal. This is your job. You're so good at it. It is not your job to try and save anyone's life. It is not your job your job is to just be here and stay healthy. Your job is to remain happy, and just talk them through that in the same way that, a lot of, you think human doctors need to be talked through things. Like, imagine, human doctors who maybe weren't able to save someone's life, they take that on,
Oh, yeah.
right? I wasn't able to save them. They died. And, they have humans and counselors talking them through, no, that's not your job. You did your best. We can do that for our animals and set them up for success in that way. But if the animal's living in a house with somebody who's really, really sick and they're there to emotionally support them, you'd have a similar sort of conversation. What you would say to the animal would be something like, I'm going through something and I really don't feel well, but how you're going to help me is by staying really healthy and really happy. And this is mine. This belongs to me. This is something I have to go through. This is not yours to take on. Your job is to continue to bring laughter into this house, to continue to make me feel safe, to continue to be healthy. And it's just kind of setting an emotional, energetic boundary between the two.
Wow.
And the other thing I like to do is, I use essential oils with animals, but I use therapeutic grade, and I've been trained to do this with veterinarians. I use Young Living. Their oils are safe to use around animals, and you can put a drop of something really calming and relaxing on them, on their fur, like on their back, near their neck, and their fur acts as a wick and absorbs it and can be very calming for them. Or you can put a little bit in your hand and let them smell it,
Mm.
and it's going to just de-stress their nervous system. If you go back to your olfactory bulb, dogs have 400 million neuron receptors associated with smell. It triggers their nervous system, so you can really calm them down if they're feeling stressed.
Oh, that's great. I always notice that the animals take on the personality of like the family that they're in, so if
Mm-hmm.
you have like a hyper group of individuals, the dog is never usually very calm. They're more like their owners.
Right.
And then you have calm people, the dog is it's like they're
Oh, very much so. Very much so. When people come to me and they tell me that their dog has behavioral issues, the usually the family has behavioral issues.
exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like when I would meet adolescents that came into the office, and they would be like very stressed out, and then they would come with their parents. You'd feel stress around all of them.
Right.
And that's what I see with animals. I'm like, animals are brilliant, So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, if you want a loving, kind animal, treat them that way. And
Yeah. And treat yourself that way.
exactly. And then you could love the next person.
Yes.
Sounds like the therapy dogs, especially the ones going into the hospitals, they almost need a vacation,
Yeah. You're right. You need to really be like with an open, loving heart, understand that that's hard for them too. Even if they maybe don't know the people, they necessarily don't know the humans. There's a lot of pressure put on them. And like I said, they can smell a lot of what's happening there. And it's devastating. Think about 9/11.
Mm.
Do you remember the dogs that they sent in to Ground Zero
Mhm.
and how they couldn't find the bodies and the dogs started to fall into deep depression?
Mm.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
They actually had to stage bodies for the dogs to find.
No.
Yes, because the dogs, they were like,
Where
they
are
were
the
grief
people?
stricken because they thought they weren't doing their job well enough.
Right. That was terrible. Terrible.
And so they had to give them bodies to find
Wow, I didn't know
to
that.
keep up their morale.
Wow.
And so when you have a dog that's going into a cancer unit with a bunch of children who are dying, or into a nursing home where people are there dying, it's a hospice unit, it's the same idea. It's the
Mhm.
same, you know, veterinarians have a high suicide rate. They do a lot of euthanasias. And so, it's whether you're, it's like this is a problem with humans. And so, yes, this is going to be a problem with our animal companions. They love us. Like animals have love figured out. And they're so deeply connected to us, and they always want what's the best for us. So of course, these situations are going to negatively impair them and affect how they feel.
Wow, I never thought
Yeah.
about,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if you do decide to put your animal to sleep, so many people decide to opt out of being with them.
Yeah, that always really breaks my heart. I understand they're trying to protect themselves, but right now in this moment, it's about being there for them.
Right.
And I get that it's hard to be with somebody when they're dying, but it's worse to be dying alone.
100%. Like,
That's the least you could do for them,
yeah,
is to be there for them when they die. I totally agree with you.
uh,
I totally agree with you.
it's amazing.
And
I was with my parents when they both passed away at separate times, and there's a spirituality, an amazing part of that event. Obviously, you never want to let anyone go, especially a parent. But I think that individuals who aren't there lose
Mhm.
out. There,
Yeah.
there's a bond that lasts from this to the next.
I agree.
Can't explain it, but
It is
that,
unexplainable, and there is a bond you form with somebody to sit with them in hospice while they're dying, and just even to help take care of them. That is unexplainable. You know, I before I experienced that with my own soul companion, Holly, my cat, who really got me into working with animals. People told me, your bond will grow while you're in a hospice with her, and I was like, that's impossible. Because I love her so much already, it's impossible that my love could deepen in any way. And after I went through hospice, I really understood what they were talking about. There's just a different depth or level of love and connection you have with somebody when you're sitting with them when they're dying.
right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you let
I
them go.
agree.
Anyone who's listening, I would definitely advise um, being there with your
Mm,
fur baby at the very
mhm.
last part, because you do benefit from it as well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It opens up your heart in ways that you didn't realize it could. Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
what happens? Many families, well, not many, hopefully, but when families take on an animal and they
Mhm.
see it's not a right fit.
Mhm.
I never do quite get that. Like, so you have a baby and you say, you know what? I don't like this baby. We're going to like send it back. But they do that for fur babies.
Yeah, they really do. I mean, a lot of times people will just get rid of their animals as they start to get older. I heard a story from a shelter. Actually, I think this is fairly common. People will exchange their animals based on their furniture colors and choices. What animals look best based,
No.
like our furniture is gray, so we want this color of cat. Oh, now we're changing our furniture, so now we need to get a new cat or dog, and um, and a lot of that sort of stuff happens. You touched early about fostering and adopting, and this, I guess, is what I would say is that you know when you are thinking of adopting, it should be forever. And if you don't know what you want, I'd spend a lot of time thinking about it before you go into that, or I would foster. Fostering is an agreement with you in the shelter that says, I'm just helping this animal get adopted. And it's going to give you the ability to spend time with an animal, but without the commitment of adoption. And it will help you realize, like, I actually thought I wanted a dog, but I live in Minnesota and 6 months out of the year it's minus 45 degrees here, and I really don't want to walk a dog in the winter. People ask me all the time why I don't have a dog. I'm like, I live in Minnesota. I'm not crazy. I mean, I respect people who do it, but I'm not a sucker. And so I'm not going to get up in the winter. I just know myself. I know that I'm not. This is why I live with cats here. I love dogs, but unless I had a yard where I could just open the door and be like, go have fun out there. It's horrible. Bye. I'm not going to do that. So that would be irresponsible. I mean, I would end up walking them, but I know that that wouldn't bring a whole lot of joy to my life. So I get my love in on other people's dogs, But when I come home, and the other thing is also, I have a hard time with barking. It's really hard on my nervous system. I really don't like barking. I love animals. Barking drives me crazy. My sister, bless her big, beautiful heart, her and her wife have 2 blind and deaf Great Danes.
Oh, wow.
So if you think a Chihuahua barking is crazy, imagine a deaf Great Dane who cannot hear how loud their bark is, right? But this is their mission and they love doing it. And that's so great. But not everybody, but they're fully committed. And they pay for training, and they have trainers come in teaching them sign language. They've learned sign language. My sister and her wife have done so much to be the best guardians to these animals. Not everybody's going to do that. And so, if you're like, I work all the time, like more people have cats now than they have dogs because they work longer hours, and dogs require you to be home and walking them. So if you're one of those people who's like, I actually work a lot of hours and I'm not home during the day and it would be hard for me to go home, it might not be a good idea for you to get a dog. It might be a better idea to get a cat, but you could foster and kind of see how that relationship goes. But too, the understanding, I mean, is that you don't really know who an animal is until about 6 or 7 months into them being with you. I remember when this one here who came into this interview, Sugar Pants, she was a different cat when I first got her, a completely different cat. And she was very polite, real polite, real nice. And then about 6 months later, she started to show her real colors. And I absolutely adore Sugar Pants. She's lovely and she's sweet, but she's spunky and she's feisty and she's hilarious. And I realized she was trying to hide that because she wanted to she wanted to show herself as this, like, I'm really good. I will be a good companion. You're going to love me. You're going to want me to be here. And either way, I love her and I want her to be here. She's going to sit up for this and speak for herself. But, but a lot of times people, they will get a cat and within a week say, this cat's not a right fit for our house. There's no possible way you could know that.
Right.
Or a dog. There's no possible way you could know that. Also, your dog has a lot of anxiety. Your dog has no idea if you're going to keep them, especially if dogs or cats have been shuffled as foster animals to a lot of different houses. Sometimes people keep fosters for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then they are sent off to another foster house. Then they're sent off to another foster house, and they're sent off to another foster house. So when they get to you, how does your dog know that this is their forever home?
That's stressful.
They might just be thinking, well, why should I don't really want to bond with you. You think about the animal. I don't know that I really want to bond with you because you might be getting rid of me in a few months. And so a lot of times what we have to do is talk to this animal and tell them, I am your forever person. If you plan to be, obviously you wouldn't say that if you're not planning to do it. But back to my sister, when she had adopted Casper, her big, huge, beautiful, deaf, blind Great Dane, he had been living in foster for 6 months. And so when she brought him to her house, after about a month, they took him to doggy daycare and he had a meltdown.
Oh.
And then she realized, he thinks I'm leaving him, even though he's been with me for a month. In his mind, they're taking me I loved the family I'm with, now they're leaving me. And so we'll see that happen with a lot of animals who've been through shelters or been through the foster system in the same way you do with human children who've been through the foster system. They don't know if this is their forever home.
Right.
And they might, and there's a lot of studies about, like, with human children, they will test their boundaries with you. And a lot of kids who, as they get adopted, that's when all the behavioral stuff pops up, because they don't really believe that you're going to keep them. And they're in their mind, their subconscious is triggering all of the things that they can think of that would make you want to get rid of them.
Yeah, it sounds like abandonment has the scars could be so deep. So I love the fact of talking to your animal,
Mm-hmm.
and letting them, I love to talk to my animals and let them know how I feel, and even, just there's again a deeper connection. So
Mm-hmm.
I think people may take it for granted, or maybe not realize that they should be working on the relationship with their fur baby the way they do relationship with humans.
Totally. And, and you think too, like, and if people have foster animals, but they're not planning on keeping them, explain to the foster animal why. Like,
Right.
say to them, I love you. I actually just think you're a great dog. You're so, I love it when you greet me at the door. I love snuggling with you. The only reason I can't keep you is because I travel all the time. And I wanted to help you find your forever home. I
Mhm.
wanted to give you a safe place to heal and to get through your illnesses or to get through your emotional. But you are such an amazing dog. You deserve a family. And because I travel all the time, it's not going to be me. Talk them through that. And like, wouldn't you want that if you were a human? Is somebody being like, I absolutely adore you, but this is why you can't stay here. And it's because I do this and this and this actually has nothing to do with you. And that helps set them up for success as well.
And Rachel, I love the fact how you use natural remedies really to help these animals, because I'm all about taking charge of one's health
Mhm.
to really reach optimal living. That's what we're here for. We should feel our best, and then you could look at your relationships, and it just is a trickle effect. It's a ripple effect if
Mhm.
you feel good. So the work that you do for the animal companions of humans, making them, the animal, healthy, really is going to have an impact on the human, because if
Mhm.
they're going through all these efforts to make their animal healthy, they too will look at their lifestyle and become more healthy, I believe.
Yeah. 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 We say in my group, families that feel together, heal together. So, and it is really true. It's like, I mean, on so many different levels, your animal's really sick. What's been going on in your life emotionally? Have you been dealing with a lot of stress and drama? How can we help support you to get you through that? Or your dog, cat, bunny, whoever has cancer. What are the toxic things in your house that we can get out? And of course, removing toxic things from the house is not only good for your animal companions, it's really good for you too. So, yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, it's just, and this is, again, this type of information is not taught in schools. It's
Mm-mm.
not given to you when you purchase or you buy or you foster or you adopt an animal. Like, this
Right.
is so fundamental, and it's so important, the work that you do.
Thank you.
And really, like, I love the fact that you offer so many different ways for people to work with you, because it's so important. And then if you go to a vet, and vets are needed, like
Yeah.
doctors are needed for certain things, but if
Hmm.
it's just conventional, we miss this whole other aspect
Hmm.
that really rounds off the individual and rounds off the fur baby. So, and that's
Yeah.
where you come in.
Yeah, yeah, and I love Western medicine, and thank God we have it. Thank God we have hospitals. We all know somebody whose life has been saved. If you've been in an accident and you have two broken legs, now is not the time to go get acupuncture. You need to go to the hospital. If you have a knife wound, this is not time for chiropractor or holistic. You need to go to the hospital, and it serves its purpose and it's so great. The issue is that it's not everything. And I think so many people hear this. So many people come to me saying their doctor or veterinarian told them there's nothing more that can be done. A truer statement is there's nothing more I can do. And, but there are other resources out there. There's people like you, Nancy. There's people like me. There's people who do different stuff. And, and a lot of times when people jump on the phone with me, they call, we're doing a free consultation. One of my first questions is, what's your goal? Because everybody's goal is different. And, and a lot of times people's goals are, I'm in it to win it. I want to be on the Oprah show with my dog because he went into spontaneous remission. Okay, awesome. Let's do that. Let's try and make that happen. But like I said, a lot of people's goals are, I just want them to die gracefully. And I need support. I need somebody to talk me through this. I need somebody to help me understand that euthanasia is not mean. A lot of times that is the nicest, most graceful way you can help somebody pass. And they just need somebody to help talk them through that. They need to have the conversation of being there, and they need somebody to hold them through their grief process.
Right.
And, because, another thing too, is I teach classes on grief and death and dying. Like most humans don't know what to say to another human when a human has died. But when it comes to fur babies, people really don't know what to say to you. And they end up saying a lot of things that can be really hurtful unintentionally. Like you can get another, oh, well, they've had a good life. I mean, all of those things, it comes from a good place, but it's not helpful and it ends up hurting and it can be really isolating. And so when you have connection with other people who get you and understand you, it's just going to set you up to have a community of resources.
I love that. And what's the best way for people to connect with you? I know you're on social media. If you want to share all that, it's going to be in the notes, but anyone listening, I'd love for you to share how they could get a hold of you as well.
Yes, definitely. So the best way to get a hold of me is through my website, rachelaugusta.com. And that's RACHELAUGUSTA. It's like the month of August. And then that lists where they can find me on social media. It has information about my membership. They can also download a free audio to listen to with their animals that triggers the physiological relaxation response to bring new cell growth and healing to their animals. And so I have a lot of people listen to this with their animals. Whether it's for emotional or physical reasons, or just, I have people who are like, this is our nightly ritual. We just listen to it every night before we go to bed. And so, so that's free. They can download that. And then of course, if they have needs, questions, it's all through my website.
And I love that you have that free download because that's so beneficial. I mean, so many people listen to meditation at night to reset their thoughts, but this would be great even for all the things that we discussed. It could be for separation. It could be before you're going on a trip and leaving your animal. It could just be that you've had stress and it's going to be good for you.
Totally. Totally. I even have people contact me and they're like, my babysitter's playing this, for my animals while I'm gone. I'm like, that's awesome. Yeah. Like you said, it's a meditation, and it's really calming to them. And there's binaural beats and there's a lot in it that's really calming to animals. In fact, tons of people downloaded over the 4th of July season and listen to it with their animals and play it on repeat during fireworks. So yeah.
So amazing. And I'm just going to go listen to that when we go. I'm going to listen to it with my dog, who's Flower. But that is just amazing. What I must say, I was very impressed when you started talking about the cortisol and the serotonin, because like the functional medicine testing that I do on humans, looks at all of that. So
Mm.
to be able to be versed in that and really have that knowledge for the fur babies,
Mhm.
I mean, you're one of a kind. I really don't know anyone who is doing the work you do. So I would highly recommend anyone listening or watching, if you're watching the video, to get in touch with Rachel if you have a fur baby or know of someone who does. It would be even a great gift to anyone, because we really want to not only enhance the love of that we have with our humans, but also our fur babies. So thank you so much. I've learned so much. I know that the listeners have learned so much. You've really enhanced their lives and all of our lives. Is there anything that you want to add on from your vast knowledge?
Yeah, I'll just my parting words, people ask me all the time, what can I do? What can I do at home? And my response is always get the stinky stuff out of your house. And so whether it's the chemicals that I talked about, or it's tapping into, I talk about your personal perfume. What do you smell like? You know, do you smell like joy and relaxation, or do you smell like depression? And how can we get that out of the house? And so having people just tap into that. And I even have my clients think about it, like close your eyes and think about, like, what do you smell like right now? And what's your personal perfume, if you were talking in emotions? And that really helps people get in touch with like how they're feeling. Yeah.
I absolutely love that. So, everybody listening, you should close your eyes and see how you smell, because just imagine what your fur baby is.
Okay, I have one more thing to say.
Yes.
One more thing to say is, instead of allowing our animals to mirror us, really we should be mirroring them. You know, animals have happiness figured out. You know, they find the sunny spots. They play with the frisbee. They're the ones making muffins. They're the ones getting the zoomies. And I feel like the more we can mirror their love for life and behavior, the more we can pull ourselves out of those darker places.
Oh
Yeah.
my God, 100%. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for really blessing all of us with your wisdom and knowledge today.